The 8 phases are the new moon, the waxing crescent moon, the first quarter moon, the gibbous moon, the full moon, disseminating moon, which can also be waning, third quarter moon or last quarter moon, and the balsamic moon. Hello and welcome back to another video. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for all your likes, comments, messages, just all of the love and support. I feel so much love here and I'm so appreciative. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. I'm so glad to have you. My name is Cheyenne. I am the face behind Soulful Soothe. Today's video is going to be about the phases of the moon. Now, I am a self-identified moon slut. And when I encounter newbies on their spiritual journey, they are often mesmerized by the amount of knowledge that more seasoned folk have on the moon, its phases, and how to attune and practice your magic according to the phases of the moon. So how I envision this video going, first I want to try and keep this video to like 10-15 minutes. We'll see how that goes. But I want to talk about like identifying the phases of the moon and then go into what the associations are with each phase and how you can work your magic or practice a ritual based on your intention and how to like match it up to that moon phase, if that makes sense. I will be referencing Yasmin Boland's Moonology Manifestations deck. This has become one of my absolute favorite decks when it comes to the moon and just all of her beauty. So let's get right into it. There are overall 8 phases of the moon cycle or the lunar cycle. I'll be using those interchangeably, just FYI. So the 8 phases are, and if you see me like looking off to the sides because I have my notes, the 8 phases are the new moon, the waxing crescent moon, the first quarter moon, the gibbous moon, the full moon, disseminating moon, which can also be waning, third quarter moon or last quarter moon, and the balsamic moon. Depending on who you ask, these phrases might change. They can be called multiple things, but for the purposes of this video, those are the terms that you'll hear me using. So during the new moon, I think it's pretty commonly associated, commonly practiced that this is when you set your intention. So this is when you would write your petitions to spirit. Now, of course, you can petition, you can set intention at any time you feel called to work your magic, but if you are trying to attune to the moon and tap into the moon's energy to assist you to amplify the power of your magic, the new moon is the time of the month where intention setting is the most potent. Excuse me. The waxing crescent moon, that is often associated with optimism. That's when you're sitting and you are, okay, let's go back. New moon would be when you're sitting there and you're like daydreaming. You're like, oh, it'd be so wonderful if blah, blah, blah. And you're like very dreamy and people probably, if you're telling people about your dreams or whatever, they're probably not taking you seriously because they're so grandiose. They're so big. They're out of the box, blah, blah, blah. When you go to the waxing crescent moon, that's when you are optimistic because the energy is gaining momentum. And that actually is one of the cards from Yasmin's previous deck. The original deck is just Moonology. This one, she put a little bit more information in the guidebook about specifics on how you can tap into that specific moon's energy to help you manifest your desires. So the optimism comes from the energy is, gaining momentum. Like you're starting to see the moon peak out. So the new moon is completely dark. The light from the sun, just is not reaching the moon. So the moon is not shining, it's not bright, you don't really see it. And that's kind of how, if you think about the process of like goal setting and thinking about dreams and how things come from concept to creation, they're in the dark, they're hidden, not everybody knows about it. You know, this is not the time to be marketing something because it's like there's nothing there, right? When we go on through the cycle to the first quarter moon, this is usually when you are starting to see some challenges. You're like, okay, I've got this dream, I've outlined a potential plan, I've started to take some action toward that goal or that dream. This is when your confidence is tested, because it's like, is this what you really want? And at this point, the moon is about to reach the midway point, which is that full moon, which is when the energy is the most intense. So this is when you can expect to have some confidence testing and some trials and tribulations, not to be dramatic. The gibbous moon, this is when you are expected to make some adjustments, some tweaks. I'm hearing a song. I'm not even trying to channel right now, but Spirit is like speaking. I might even pull some cards. We'll see. Halfway there. Isn't that a Journey song? Whoa, living on a prayer. Da, 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 da. But anyway, that's what the gibbous moon is like. It's like you're making adjustments. When I coach my clients, I always tell them like, at the beginning of the month is when you sit down and you reflect on the last month, and then you go on to address any challenges that you've had, and then you start to set your goals. But what differentiates me from other coaches is that I often talk about going back, and not going back in a sense of like a retrograde, but more so like being consistent with tracking your progress. So I tell my clients in the middle of the month, you'll want to journal again or check in with yourself, however you do that. Everybody's not a journaler, I get it. But you'll want to go back and say, okay, is my plan working how I intended it to work? Does this personally work for me? Because we can set a plan, and then as soon as we start to execute it, we could be like, oh, this is not, I ain't trying to do that. So it's like, is it working for you? This is the time to assess that and be honest with yourself. It's not a judgment call. It doesn't make you a bad person if you need to shift or make any tweaks. Just go ahead and, make those tweaks. So also, this is like right before the full moon. So the moon looks like it's full. It looks like everything is ready, but it's not. So this is the time for you to make any changes before the moon is fully illuminated and that energy is super intense. Why am I saying that? Because when we get to the full moon, that is the time that most people are releasing things. Now let's talk about that for a moment. Why is it that we're often talking about releasing things when it comes to the full moon? Because, okay, Spirit is giving me the analogy of a plate of food. If we were to compare the moon to a plate of food, the full moon would be a plate, a full plate. Okay, for my black folks, think about a Thanksgiving dinner plate. You got your ham. You might have some ribs, depending on where you at. Mashed taters and gravy. You got collard greens, turnip greens, some type of greens. You got dressing with the gravy. Depending on where you at, you might have chitlins on the plate. It's a full plate. You might have cornbread. You might have macaroni and cheese, green bean casserole. Like, you got all this food on the plate. Now, if you think back to the new moon when we were setting our intentions, we're asking Spirit, this is what I see for myself. This is what I see for my life. If it is thine will, please allow me to have blah, blah, blah. You can't have it. You can't put another slice of ham. I mean, you could try, but you couldn't put another slice of ham or another piece of nothing on your plate if it's a full plate. So this is the time to release. But I do want to add this caveat because I have not seen anyone else on the internet talk about the full moon in this way. Now, if there is someone who has, I'm not saying that I have exclusivity to this, the way that I'm about to say this, but if someone else has talked about it in this way, I mean no harm. Please do not cut my head off. But not only is the full moon a time for releasing things, it's also a very active time. Why is it active? Because the energy is super intense. This is not a time for you to be resting. This is a time for you to be actively pushing and rejecting those things that are not serving you anymore. The things, and when I say not serving you anymore, because I'm honestly tired of hearing that phrase on the internet. But what I mean when I say that is you need to be actively rejecting and actively trying to look at your habits and saying, are my habits in alignment with my goal? Are my habits in alignment with my intention? Are my habits in alignment with where I want to be and how I see myself? If they're not, get rid of it and figure out what you can replace that habit that you just got rid of. Figure out what you can replace it with. That's how I look at the full moon. So moving forward to the disseminating moon, that is when, okay, so before we go any further, I would say all the moon phases after the full moon are a time for relaxing, because after you release and you've like done all this action, this is when it's time for you to like release and relax, because this is when things are really in Spirit's hands. Things are always in Spirit's hands, right? The divine is always going to do what the divine wants to do. We can't control that. We can't control life. It is what it is. But this is the time when you relinquish your control and practice full surrender. Now, the disseminating moon, that's when you are more receptive. You're attracting things. You're not writing new petitions. Let me just take this damn thing out. You're not writing new petitions. You're not asking Spirit for nothing new. You've already made your tweaks. If you feel like you need to make any more tweaks to how you're currently executing your plan, like go ahead and do that. But it's not a very active time. When we move ahead to the third quarter, the last quarter moon, excuse me, this is the time for you to make adjustments for the home stretch. Spirit is giving me the analogy of a pregnant woman nesting. So if you're not familiar with that term, basically it's right before the baby is born. The mother is intuitively feeling and physically feeling the baby moving and repositioning itself and, you know, trying to prepare itself to come out, to be birthed into the world, right? So this is when you are preparing for your manifestations to come into fruition. And so you want to make sure that you've got an environment that is conducive for the life of your new baby. And your new baby is the manifestation, right? So you want to make sure that everything in your environment is conducive for that new baby to be safe, to be nurtured, to be cared for, and for you to be able to enjoy the baby, because I'm pretty sure it's beautiful. Everybody thinks their baby is beautiful. Not true, but anyway. Balsamic moon. This is the time for true surrender, because it's nothing left for you to do. There's nothing left for you to do. You're not setting new intention. You're not tweaking your plan. Why? Because you've done all that you can do. And so at this point, it's left up with God. Now, I want to pull a card and read from the book slightly. I think we've done beautifully on time. I just saw 333 on the clock. Divine Creator, thank you so much for allowing me the time and the space and the energy to be here with my dear friends. Thank you for this time of community and fellowship. Thank you for allowing us to be in the same space at the same time. What an honor, what a privilege. We thank you so much for your hedge of protection during this time. We thank you with so much love in our hearts, so much gratitude on our lips, and clarity in our mind and our requests. We ask that you would mitigate my ego and any bias that I have, and allow me to be a clear vessel and channel for your people in this moment. Spirit, what messages do my friends here in the collective watching this video right now, what message do they need to know right now? I love this. First quarter moon in Pisces. Honor your feelings. Honor your feelings. Be honest about where you're at. Be honest about what you want, where you want to be. You know, I feel like a lot of times people feel a bunch of guilt around money, a bunch of guilt around luxury. Like, oh, this is, oh, it's just nothing. On the opposite end of that spectrum, people can also be flashy and flamboyant and want to flex and all of that. But I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to you, who I know if you're part of this collective, you probably have some challenges with being honest about what you truly desire, because you don't want to be perceived in this way of like, oh, that person is greedy, or they want too much, or they're too flashy, or they're too focused on the wrong things or whatever. Fuck that. We deserve over here, honey. We love luxury. We love being taken care of. Okay. We love a good time. We love to chill. We love ease, especially for my black and brown sisters. Fuck all that. We deserve a life of ease and luxury just as any other woman. Period. Okay, so what does the book have to say about this? The reason why I love this deck so much is because, again, I said she incorporated so much. She talks about your manifesting mindset, which is super important. She talks about how to tune into your manifesting powers. Then she talks about specific times to practice magic. So something that you may not know is like, each planet is associated with a day of the week. Then we have planetary hours. It gets very specific. So what does the book have to say about first quarter moon in Pisces? Are you putting on a good front, acting like you're bright and breezy, but hiding your real feelings? Rather than acting as though everything is fine, if you're worried about certain issues, it's best to deal with them. Avoid getting so wrapped up in your feelings that you overwhelm yourself and your feelings. You'll go nowhere fast with your manifesting. Look at the big picture and use your intuition. Avoid blowing an upset out of proportion. So this taps into Pisces energy overall. Pisces as a Pisces sun, moon. I got a bunch of Pisces in my chart. So I know this place very well. We can tend to be very pessimistic, woe is me, drowning in a 3-foot pool kind of sort of deal, very emotional. That doesn't serve you well when manifesting. So manifesting mix. As admirable as it is to live a cheerful and happy-go-lucky life, this card suggests you need to make sure you're not ignoring your emotions. One of the positives of Pisces energy is that it asks you to go beneath the surface, which a lot of people and a lot of other zodiacs that hate on Pisces aren't able to do. You're being asked to feel all of your feelings. Making light of your emotions now is not recommended. Remember, we create with our emotions. Sacral chakra. Tune into your manifesting powers using the crown chakra. It's located at the top of your head, and its color is a majestic violet. This chakra connects you with source and helps you to find direction when you need it. Imagine bathing in a column of radiant violet light and just breathe. Hold this card to your crown and call in its energies with this incantation. Energies of the first quarter moon in Pisces, thank you for showing me that I am divine. The best time to work your magic is when the moon is in Pisces on a Thursday, Jupiter's day. Jupiter is one of the ruling planets of the zodiac of Pisces, or during Jupiter's hour. The first quarter moon in Pisces takes place when the sun is in Sagittarius and the moon is in Pisces. It knows that the divine is in us and around us. Jupiter is the planet of luck and expansion. It also rules Sagittarius. And the page number in the book is, will it focus? 77, which most people associate the number 7 with luck. So what a beautiful little message to close out this reading or this video. I'm really trying to like tap more into like informative videos and not just do readings and blogs. I really want to help educate people on, you know, just spiritual stuff, because not everyone comes from a long line of witches or spiritual people, and you may be a baby witch and you just want some guidance, and you know, I feel like one of the downfalls of the spiritual community is that we can definitely be haughty at times. We can be kind of like stuck up and like, oh, you know, you're not supposed to do this, but don't tell nobody why you're not supposed to do it. So like, I just want this to be a very welcoming and inviting place. This is why I created Soulful Soothe, the shop, so you can come and ask questions and not be embarrassed or like, I don't want you to feel some type of way about not knowing what you don't know, because we're all human, right? So, okay, thank you so much for sharing time and space with me. If you made it to the end of this video, please leave me some peacock emojis. All right, love you. Ciao.